They were getting yippy, you know? They were getting a little bit yippy, a little bit afraid.
The soundbite heard around the world as President Trump pumped the brakes on sweeping tariffs. Hello and welcome to your Newsmax Daily for Thursday, April 10th, 2025. The 100th day of the year, the day after one of the biggest stock market rallies in the history of the stock market, and National Siblings Day. Created in 1995 as a day to recognize the importance and honor the bond between siblings. If you have any, give them a call today. Don't send a text. Let them know how much they mean to you, even if you're mad at them for some trivial reason, as siblings often are. If they live nearby, maybe get together later on today. Today is also National Hug Your Dog Day. I must mention that, or the dog people like Greta Van Susteren will be all mad at me. But Hug Your Dog Day is basically every day, right? President Trump has a very busy calendar today, a cabinet meeting, a swearing-in ceremony, a bill signing after delaying tariffs for every country for 90 days except China. You know, that's how he says it. Let's start with Greg Kelly reports.
So, where are we right now? 125% tariff imposed on China by the United States. And for everybody else in the world, because they're negotiating with us, they get 10%. Now, some people on the left say this is a total cave. I don't think so. I believe Secretary Bessent. I believe what I'm hearing about these countries looking for a way out, looking for an exit ramp. They know they've been ripping us off. It's time. Now, the markets, they're gleeful, aren't they? All right, just in a day, up almost 3,000 points. That's a lot. And it looks like everybody is thrilled. 125% tariff on China. China's kind of, I'm hearing they're getting very, very nervous. The rest of the world is trying to make a deal. And President Trump, though, he's listening and people are calling him. And this is why he decided to put the pause in. 10% for 90 days, and then we'll see where we are.
Well, I thought that people were jumping a little bit out of line. They were getting yippy, you know. They were getting a little bit yippy, a little bit afraid. The bond market right now is beautiful. But, yeah, I saw last night where people were getting a little queasy. It does take guts. It even takes guts for our country to go through it. That's why I say be cool. They were saying about, see, just be cool. It's going to work out.
Be cool. And, yeah, sometimes you got to go around the wall, over the wall, through the wall. It's all, I mean, people say, oh, that's corny, that book. He didn't write it, a ghostwriter wrote it. No, actually, it's all him. And he talks about this when you have to walk away, when you have to adjust, when you have to pivot. But this really isn't a pivot. I see this as a victory, and we're onward, and we're making deals for the United States for the first time in a very long time. You know, Joe Biden kind of reflects how a lot of our leaders spoke about China, right? You look over the years what Donald Trump said about China and what other people said about China. It's kind of fascinating. Take a look.
I have many people from China that I do business with. They laugh at us. They feel we're fools. You know, they're getting away with absolute murder.
China's a great nation, and we should hope for the continued expansion.
I don't want to lose $300 billion a year to China when we can't afford to build schools for our children, when we can't afford to build highways, when we can't afford to build railways, when we can't afford to build bridges. I want money to be invested in jobs and in this country. I don't want to rebuild China.
A rising China is a positive development, not only for China, but for America and the world writ large.
It was China's fault, and China's going to pay a big price what they've done to this country. China's going to pay a big price what they've done to the world. This was China's fault, and just remember that.
554,064 American dead from COVID-19. A lot of families want to know how this happened, how it got here. Have you had a chance to speak to any of your international partners, any of President Xi, who I know you go way back with? Have you had a chance to ask him if these reports are true that China maybe misled the world at the beginning?
No, I have not had that conversation with President Xi. Thank you.
How about that? Hey, why is Joe and so many others, why are they so conciliatory toward China? Well, they're owned by China, very much so. Joe's going to admit it. More on that in just a moment. But back to our present situation. All right, 125% on China, 10% on everybody else. This is, I don't know if you'd call it a pause, a 90-day pause. Was that the plan all along? Maybe not. But I do think, like the president said, you got to adjust every now and then.
You have to have flexibility. I could say, here's a wall, and I'm going to go through that wall. I'm going to go through it no matter what. And keep going, and you can't go through the wall. Sometimes you have to be able to go under the wall, around the wall, or over the wall.
I like it. And anybody who knows or studies Trump, this is vintage Trump, all right? He is, all things are possible, and he keeps people guessing, and kind of the overflow of information sometimes helps him choose what he's going to do.
As you know, those comments led to a historic rally on the stock markets, which did open in the red this morning. Is it just profit taking from the huge run-up, or is it something bigger? We won't know until much later in the day. More from Carl Higbie, host of Frontline on Newsmax.
The left wing took this as an opportunity to hurt Trump. Forget the American people, they said. For the last 4 days, the media, the liberal media, has been attempting to appeal to their economically illiterate audience to further hurt the market. You know why markets are going down? You know why they go down, why they are down? Because people think they're going to go down. Look very carefully at who was on what networks telling people that the sky was falling.
There is a lot of concern and fear, levels that we've rarely seen outside of the COVID crash and the 2008 financial crisis. Talking to investors and analysts and economists, I don't think I've ever heard them as concerned and confused and just sort of frustrated.
Donald Trump's tariffs, it comes as the president's trade policies continue to rattle the markets.
This could be the end of American exceptionalism. When all these countries are watching this disaster play out and we're insulting them, they could take their toys, they could take their money and say, I'm not investing in your stocks, I'm not investing in your bonds, I'm done with you, America.
That's what they wanted. I mean, this is as close to insider trading as you can possibly get. And it was very coordinated. Think about this. Instead of trying to help the country, help the people they say were being hurt by this, what was the left doing? They were sending who they think were the most credible of their side out onto all the major TV networks to try to convince millions of Americans that they should sell their stocks, to create a stock run, which is causing more people to sell their stocks, which caused the markets to go down more, which caused some of the other people to sell more of their stocks. And instead of being genuinely worried about it, God forbid, try to help Trump fix it, Democrats just were out there perpetuating the narrative. And then when somebody goes on one of those same networks and says, hey guys, slow your roll, let's weather the storm, don't freak out, they send who knows how many trolls to go attack them. Like this, Dave Portnoy, who ended up being right, by the way.
It's uncomfortable. Anytime a stock market is like this and you're invested in it, it's certainly uncomfortable. But I stand with it. He ran on tariffs. He said he was a tariff fan. And I don't pretend to be an economist. I don't think I realized that we'd have this market crash. I don't think most people did. But I think he believes in what he's doing and trying to basically strong-arm China and get better deals for the U.S. I'm willing to still give him time.
I'm jumping in here for context. If you're not a sports person or a social media hound, you may not know Dave Portnoy. He's a big sports guy. He's the founder of Barstool Sports, basically a social media personality. In all fairness, he did say that he was getting nervous or uncomfortable, as did Joe Rogan, but was willing to give it some time, right? Back to Carl, who's just getting started.
We need to dissect what just happened here. Okay, this showed that Americans don't know what sacrifice is anymore. Think about it. We had, as a society, we complain about literally everything, any minor inconvenience. Walking around this country at 32% body fat on average, ordering Uber Eats from 3 blocks away, we whine about any minor inconvenience, even if it's our own fault. Think about this, folks. Reflect on this. It's so good here in America. For the first time in the history of civilization, we here in America have it so good that the primary health concern among poor people is obesity because we have too much to eat. We have reached a place in society today where the majority of Americans' portfolio is more important to them than their country. That hurts my soul to say that. How do we get back to a place where people's pride and faith in their country exceeds their concern for their personal portfolio? During World War II, people left their businesses. They just boarded them up and shut them down. They put them on pause, kissed their kids on the forehead, and volunteered to storm the beaches of Normandy. Many of those people actually lied about their age because they were too young to go fight. How many 16-year-olds do you know today that would drop their friends, their video games, their iPhones, and their sports to go march to almost certain death in another country? I'll tell you, it's about 0% of Democrats. And honestly, a lot of members of Congress, too, on both sides. And I know all this because these people just panicked. They threw a temper tantrum and was ready to throw in the towel because they might have to pay more for some stupid gadget on Amazon that they don't even need. Huge swaths of Congress, many Republicans, what was their response to this? Instead of knuckling up and having faith in a guy that 77 million of us elected, they were about to try to pass a law to take away Trump's right to negotiate tariffs. No. We have become so soft that we do not know how to make sacrifices anymore, even for 5 days. Let's review what just happened this last week. This was a test. We were just presented with our nation's version, our generation's version of the post-Pearl Harbor posters that went up that said, Uncle Sam, pointing at you, I want you for the U.S. Army. Trump wanted you to put America first and yourself second for a week.
Great, common sense, real life stuff from Carl Higbie, as always. I couldn't agree more. I remember when I was a kid, my grandparents saved money for like 2 months, maybe more, to go buy a TV. I tell this to my kids all the time, along with no cable TV and no remote. But they didn't have credit cards. Maybe they had one that they only used for like real emergencies, not for wants, but for needs. If you want a new TV, whether you can afford it or not, you are going to go get it as soon as you can and charge it, right? Carl also spoke with Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy.
So first off, I don't know about the liberals applauding, but I'm going to applaud right here. It's amazing what the president has done. Again, 9% today. I was just in the Oval with the president and a lot of the cabinet, and it is exhilarating. I'm just going to talk to you about one thing: shipbuilding. Okay, a little off page on the market and tariffs, but we don't build ships in America anymore. In 2022, we built 5 ships. 5. China built 1,800 ships in 2022. Right. So if you want to be a global power, you have to build ships. And you have to have sailors to sail those ships. And so the president today said, you know what? We are going to actually build ships in America again, and we're going to train the mariners to sail those ships. So DOT has a huge component of that. We're excited. But this president, he thinks long-term and strategically and understands that if there's a crisis in the world that involves our military, we need ships to support the military on the commerce side, and we don't make them anymore. So, again, that was great. By the way, I don't know if you were watching, if you guys were going with a feed live, but the president's talking about shower heads. You don't have enough water that can come through your shower head because of Biden's regulations. And so, again, fixing small things like that, hopefully it's going to get to dishwashers. Wouldn't it be great if dishwashers worked again, where you don't have to wash your dishes first and then put them in the dishwasher to actually get a little heat on them? I mean, common sense stuff he's doing.
No, 100%, sir. And I'm so glad that we were able to get you in time. I know you literally ran out of the Oval Office, so we appreciate the hustle. You mentioned infrastructure and things like that. We've had massive infrastructure problems. California built like a $40 billion bridge to absolutely nowhere, $17 billion, and never even had one piece of track laid just for the study. How is the president, and yourself obviously included in this, going to make sure that the infrastructure investments we do make are much more accountable?
So you mentioned the California high-speed rail. It's been 16 years and $16 billion. Not one track is laid. No. Nothing. You have nothing for it. And if you're a liberal, and liberals love trains, and liberals love subways and public transportation. You go look at New York. It is dirty. It's filthy. It's violent.
I take it every day.
People don't want to ride that. Yeah. Wouldn't it be great if you were a liberal to go, I'm going to make this a beautiful experience and a really safe experience for the New York or New Jersey rider. And so what I'm going to do, and with President Trump, we are going to invest in the great projects that will be built, that'll be on budget, on time, and move people. Like that, it's really simple stuff. In these boondoggles, where like in California, where people get rich and nothing's ever built, we're done with that. It's making the American people rich with great infrastructure, not politician spouses.
Sir, if you could fix the MTA and all that stuff, man, I would do anything you want. But Secretary of Transportation Sean Duffy, we appreciate it very much, sir.
So he mentioned shower pressure. One of the many executive orders that President Trump signed yesterday was an order to deregulate water pressure.
In my case, I like to take a nice shower to take care of my beautiful hair. I have to stand under the shower for 15 minutes till it gets wet. It comes out drip, drip, drip. It's ridiculous.
And people on both sides of the aisle were a bit surprised at this.
We're honored to have Gretchen Whitmer from Michigan, great state of Michigan. And she's really done an excellent job. And a very good person. And we're working on the Selfridge, as you know, the air base. We're trying to get the air base open, keep it open. I think, Gretchen, if you're there, and Matt Hall, the Speaker of the House of Michigan. And he's been fantastic as the Speaker. I appreciate it. We won the state, Matt, and you helped me a lot.
I did, and you made me Speaker, so thank you, Mr. President.
Oh, I did. That's good, too. And Gretchen, I think everybody knows.
The president and the governor, well-documented critics, to be kind, of each other, showing some bipartisanship yesterday. Trump is working to keep the Selfridge Air Base in Michigan open, and as he has said all along, he's willing to work with anyone. Right? He's extended many olive branches to the Democrats. Meanwhile, Democrats are, of course, slamming Whitmer's appearance with Trump. She is, like every other Democrat, I guess, a potential 2028 presidential candidate, and said her appearance at the Oval Office was not an endorsement of Trump because, she has to say that to protect herself, but she did say she understood the president's motivation for the tariffs. Trump also suspended over $175 million in federal funding to the University of Pennsylvania, his alma mater, by the way, due to the institution's policies allowing transgender athletes to compete in women's sports. The other big story is the budget and the House of Representatives.
Plan to get to that resolution before everybody leaves for the district work period. And Passover is Saturday. I don't have any intention to have us here working this weekend, but if we have to come back next week, then we'll do that. We're having very productive conversations with a good subset of the House Republican Conference. Everybody has the same idea and mission and goal in mind, and that is we want to deliver the one big, beautiful bill.
House Speaker Mike Johnson says they will try again today to pass the Senate-approved Republican budget blueprint. Johnson canceled yesterday's vote due to opposition from about a dozen Republican holdouts. The topic of discussion again on today's Wake Up America after James Comer said yesterday, let's get it done.
Tennessee Senator Marsha Blackburn. Good morning, Senator. So what's your reaction to the House holdup on this? This bill doesn't actually mean anything. It's the next bill that counts.
You're right about that, Mark. And what we are doing is setting the floor for cuts. We want to cut probably more than the House does. And we're also setting a ceiling for what you can spend. And as you said, this unlocks the process to reconciliation. Reconciliation is where we're going to get making the tax cuts permanent. So it is imperative that the House join with us, allow the Senate instructions. We have to have certain instructions to pass the Senate. They need to accept those instructions that we have to have so we can all move forward, writing our reconciliation bill that will embody cuts, yes. It also will embody a permanence on the 2017 Tax Cut and Jobs Act and allow us to pass President Donald Trump's agenda, securing our southern and northern borders, building our military, addressing crime in our streets, and restoring our standing in the world.
And, Senator, we know it's all about the cuts. And we know that at least a dozen conservatives in the House, they're firmly against it still, basically going back to those spending cuts. And Missouri Congressman Eric Burleson said that he and others need guarantees that there will be bigger cuts in the final bill. So do you think the Senate and the House can come to an agreement eventually?
My hope is that the House will move forward and pass this so we can come to agreement on the reconciliation bill. And as Mark said, this unlocks the process. Let's unlock the process so that the cutting can begin. And let's look at our rescission bills where we can compile all of these DOGE cuts and actually codify those and run those rescission bills as we are at the same time working on our reconciliation bill. This process is what will get us down to a pre-COVID spending level, which is what we would like to do, be closer to that $6.5 trillion budget rather than the House passed $7.1 trillion budget. We would like next year to reach President Donald Trump's goal of a balanced budget, which means we need to cut our way and save the taxpayer money down to a $5.5 trillion budget.
Senator Marsha Blackburn on Wake Up America this morning with Charlotte McBride and Mark Lotter. Don't forget, this is essentially a vote to have a vote. At least agree to move on to the vote. So that's going down on Capitol Hill again today. And we haven't talked about Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth in a bit. He wrapped up a trip to Panama Wednesday, signing an agreement on the security and operation of the Panama Canal that will allow U.S. warships free and full entry through the canal and increases military cooperation between the United States and Panama.
These documents reaffirm our historic ties and outline how we will deepen our relationship and strengthen bilateral canal security cooperation.
This agreement coming several weeks after President Trump threatened, or I'll say suggested, that the U.S. take over the canal, right? And FBI Director Kash Patel was replaced as acting director of the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, ATF, without the explosives, and by U.S. Army Secretary Daniel Driscoll. Driscoll will continue to serve as Army Secretary while he oversees the ATF. And on Wall Street, as I mentioned, the stock markets opened pretty deep in the red with the Dow Industrials down about 500 points. I guess that's not really that big of a deal after a 3,000-point gain. Bitcoin, Ethereum, and most other cryptocurrencies are slightly lower as well after yesterday's huge rally in crypto. Bitcoin was up more than $6,000 in just a matter of hours. At the time of this recording, Bitcoin is $81,600. XRP is at $2 even. Be sure to keep up with all of the news today on Newsmax, N2, and at NewsMax.com. There are several different events happening at the White House. Make sure you're streaming on Newsmax Plus as well so you can see all of your favorite shows and hosts throughout the day. It all starts each and every morning with Wake Up America, followed by National Report, Bianca De La Garza on Newsline, Carl Higbie on Frontline, all the way through Rob Schmidt tonight, Finnerty, Greg Kelly reports, The Right Squad, and much more, all with expert analysis. I'm Tony Marino. Enjoy the rest of your day. Make sure you call or go see your sibling or siblings. Thank you, as always, for listening, and keep on fighting the good fight.
News breaks every minute, every day. You need the app, the Newsmax app. Find it free on your smartphone store. Then watch us anytime, anywhere.
Information. Truth is freedom. Is Newsmax. It's real news for real people.